Good morning, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Awaken the World. My name is Garhen, and we are here for our Help Awaken Live Help and Advice Hour. How is everyone this morning? So, as we say in the comments there, if there are no questions, we are going to be discussing the release of Come Sunday, the biographical drama of Carleton Pearson, Bishop Carleton Pearson, and organized religion and where we go next. And of course, at 1 p.m. this afternoon, Pacific Standard Time, on the Awaken the World YouTube page, we have a big live Sunday Q&A. Promises to be lots of fun, lots of interesting subjects. Good morning, Jennifer. Nice to see you this morning. So, as I said, if no one has any direct questions that they would like some advice or help with this morning, we're going to talk a little bit about Come Sunday. And what I was actually hoping to do, and we're going to try it out, is I'm going to pull up the little trailer here. It's just a couple minutes long, and we're going to take a look at this little trailer, and this will form part of the discussion. So here we go.
I still believe that.
The world needs to get saved. Lift them up and say hallelujah. Say I'm a soldier.
My comfort and my joy is knowing that you're here to lead the way.
I believe.
Half the people I grew up with, they're all going in the wrong direction. Do you believe God spoke to me?
What does it matter what anyone thinks?
Matters to me.
No more pain and no more shame and misery. People have been saying that I stopped believing in hell.
I heard a voice say,
Everyone's already saved.
No, you can't just rewrite the Bible.
I'm not rewriting anything. I'm just rereading it.
You speak the word of God in this church.
That God loves us all.
why didn't you call me? You owe me that much.
Pharisee, son, you need to consider everything you're putting at risk, and not just for yourself.
You don't need to be saved.
You don't know that. You can't know that.
You want proof it wasn't God's voice you heard? Half our congregation walking out. That was it.
Either you're with me or you're not.
Good morning, Jackie.
You're all right. It's false doctrine you're preaching.
So we'll cut the preview short there. But if you haven't seen Come Sunday, it's available on Netflix, and I sincerely suggest you give it a watch, because it is the story of a very long-term bishop who. Kelly actually went to this guy's church. She was at Oral Roberts University. Martin Sheen plays Oral Roberts in this film. She was there when the son committed suicide because he was gay, and she has a very deep connection with this. And really, Bishop Carleton Pearson has become the poster boy for what happens when you expand yourself beyond the cult of religion. It really does. And I'm just going to lower my gain here a little bit. It looks a little bit high. Jennifer says she'll watch that. Excellent. Yeah, you're really going to enjoy it, because it really is. It is a good look at the journey we face coming out of religious circles. And being Sunday, we are going to talk about this religion today. We're going to talk about it. And if anyone saw my little Facebook Live video on plant life yesterday, we had a picture of this gorgeous hanging plant that we bought and we put in the bedroom in the light of our new windows. And Cindy commented that the plant was a wandering Jew. So I immediately said to Kelly after when we went upstairs, I said, I've decided to name this plant Jesus Christ. And she actually asked me why. And I said, honey, Cindy told us it's a wandering Jew. There's nothing like a little heretical talk on a Sunday morning to liven your spirits. Missed that. I'm not sure what you missed. The wandering Jew plant or the video or the Christ reference. Maybe it's just me, but I thought it was insanely funny. And last night, I do a lot of lucid dreaming, and I spend a lot of time. Christ has a particular pub that he likes to frequent on the other side, and I typically go to that pub and meet him there. And we have some really great conversations during my lucid dream cycles where I intend my dreams. And we were having a really good laugh last night over the wandering Jew thing. You know, I mean, I got to tell you, on the other side, all the beautiful and Jennifer, the plant video is just available on the group page, the Awaken the World group page. If you scroll down, you'll see it from last night. And we brought home a bunch of beautiful plants yesterday. We were truly blessed. And I've been getting Kelly more and more into turning our home into a jungle, opening up more and more light, and bringing in more plant life and bathing in the conscious love that plants give to us and returning it to them and gaining all the health benefits. And even our boy, after a few hours of the coffee plant in the house yesterday, he says, I can already smell. He says, it smells different, it smells better. There's something different in the air. And my spirit animal is the tiger, and of course I return to the jungle whenever possible, and making my home more jungle-esque is part of it. But plants offer us so much. So do take a look at that video. It's cute. It's only about 17 minutes long. It's kind of fun. And okay, so now that we've had our little bit of irreverent joke for the morning, we're going to get right to the really nasty stuff, actually. And that is, where does religion go? What is happening with religion? And I'm going to speak about this to a fair degree. And of course, if anyone has anything pressing on their mind, if anyone has a need for some help on a subject, go ahead, ask the question. If it is more a question, like a general topic that you want discussed, we'll put that off for our Awaken Sunday Lives or our production videos. For example, we're going to be running a production video next week called How to Visit Your Family for a Week and Survive, or some iteration of that. But essentially, it's going to be a video about dealing with family. And in Kelly's case, same as in Carleton's case, same as in anyone who's left a fundamentally conservative faith of some sort, usually Christianity, you are literally put out. You are, Carleton, my wife has been following him for a number of years, and I have been very pleased to watch him grow in his new awakening consciousness from a man who would have sent you to hell and spent most of his life preaching exactly that, to a man who woke up one morning and said, wait a minute, there is no hell. And I would invite you to listen to Carleton today. I mean, he still has some angst in there about the whole thing. You can truly see it. The same as my wife Kelly still has some angst about what's going on with the family and all the people who called her loved and called her their friend until she decided to leave their belief system. Churches are dying. Organized religion in the Western form is dying. Christianity talks about the rise of the Muslim faith as some sort of negative end times things. And of course, if you're conservative Christian, especially fundamentally conservative, pretty much everything for the last 30 years has been a sign of the end times. And apparently this year, April 23rd, Nibiru is going to crash into the earth and we're all going to die. And I mean, boy, there's no end to the end times rhetoric, and I've always, found a fundamental flaw in that, and that is, hold on a second. You want to somehow accelerate. You're looking forward to the culmination of the end times. You're looking forward to the suffering of billions so that you can watch the suffering as you rise up in the rapture. You're okay. But what about your family members? What about your own children? What about your close friends? What about the people on your street who have helped you? What about a child in Africa who's never met anyone, who's never heard the name of Jesus, never seen a Bible, and has no concept of religion in the form that you would talk about? The arrogance, the untold, mind-blowing, egotistical, fat-headed arrogance to think that you would have the only path in all of creation back into the arms of the Creator, as if we ever left to start with. Now, I know this last week the energy's been high, and I'm more cognizantly aware of it, thanks to my loving wife reminding me, as she's beating me on the back of the head with a baseball bat, honey, relax. Control freaks is exactly that. And why control? Because of fear. You see, whenever an experience of truth that Christ represented, whenever we form an organization around a belief or a knowing or a truth, a bureaucracy forms. That organization's primary goal then becomes its survival first and foremost. The initial reason why it was formed becomes lost in the necessity for it to survive in order for it to fulfill what it wishes to fulfill. So therefore, the central goal of any bureaucracy, any organization, whether it is government or social, is always its own survival. That's where the problem comes in. That's where the issue appears. This is why when I phoned 30 churches in Vernon and in Armstrong, every single Christian church of every single Christian faith, and invited them all to come together as one voice, as one spiritual community, to speak up against what was happening with the homeless in Vernon, not one of them showed up. And the abject fear being relayed to me from the pastors and priests and ministers of these churches, that they would somehow not be the ones seen as instigating it, that they didn't want to be seen as following someone who is openly accepting of all customs and all beliefs. This is true heretical nature. This is now the nature of our churches. And I am not saying they are not filled with good-hearted people. I am not saying they are not filled with people who are trying with the level of consciousness they have as best they can. Because you know what? We all are. Kelly and I discussed this yesterday, and she says, and one of the fundamental issues that Kelly is dealing with is her constant desire to bring everything back into the past for comparison. Whatever happens today, there's always an instant, and you no longer see what's in front of you. You're only seeing that past again. And she keeps lamenting behavioral choices she made. And it keeps saying to her, honey, you did the best you could with the level of consciousness you had at the time. But once your consciousness is raised, once your consciousness comes up, your universe is now bigger. You can't imagine anymore that smaller realm. Reality has just expanded for you. Your eyes have opened more. Your choices have opened more. Your options have opened more. Your perceptions of what you believe you are capable of have expanded. How could you blame what you were in conscious awareness before? You couldn't see it. To you, that was only darkness. Now the light of your awareness is shining deeper into that space, illuminating more and more and more. Carleton Pearson faced the same thing we face, albeit maybe more writ larger, okay? He had the largest black and white assembly Pentecostal church in all of North America, I believe.
Yes.
You know, an average membership of over 5,000. If I'm not correct, okay, yeah, he has prayed with presidents. He was starting a TV ministry. He had this fantastic, rich future in selling the Bible, selling salvation, selling the idea that we are all sinners, that we are all born bad and wrong, and are doomed to hell unless we accept a certain path. He gave that all up. Why? Because his consciousness expanded. He went down the rabbit hole. And as we've talked about many times, there's no way out of the rabbit hole. And he watched as the people he called brothers and sisters and friend for decades leave him in droves, condemn him, tell him he was possessed by a demon and he was out to ruin the lives of people and condemn more people into hell. And he suffered for it. You know, he went through all the stages. He became angry, depressed, despondent. And I'm talking about what's happened after, what I've heard from him as I've seen him grow over the last few years. You know, he's finally come right out into the open. And he fully believes in Christ. He venerates Christ. He follows Christ. He doesn't worship Christ. Neither do I. I follow Christ as an example of an enlightened teacher. You know, if you want to emulate someone, emulate Christ. Understand that you already are Christ. You already possess that Christ consciousness. That full awareness of being. The second coming is just the awareness that you are Christ consciousness already. That's the second coming. The second coming belongs to everybody. It's not actually a second coming. It's a wake up to what's already here. Where does religion really need to go? Is religion fundamentally bad in nature? Well, of course, the answer is no. The bureaucracy has to change, though. Religion has to be willing to step back from itself for a minute and say, you know, it's okay to admit we were wrong all this time. It's okay to preach a doctrine of only love and acceptance and openness. And many people have said, well, if you don't have hell, if you don't have sin, if the world would be in chaos. Look around you. The world is in chaos. Clearly, religion has had no fundamental effect on the entirety of the whole outside to create every single war we've ever fought. In one way or another. Even the rhetoric of Trump the other night, I was showing this to Kelly. I'm saying, look at the wording. You know, we are the righteous before they bomb Syria. Okay? It is speaking of this, that there is this undertone that God is on our side, that we are more powerful, we have the bigger God, and we're going to fight your God. And this is what we do, and that time is over. Religion in all its forms. Never, ever, ever. Interruption, my interruption, which I'm choosing here, okay? Jackie says, I've got a lot of work to do with regards to that thought of following the Jesus you speak of. A spawn of Satan. Yeah, I was actually told I was the Antichrist by my own mother. 13 years old. My mother was a seer. All the women, and in my case, and it was known in my family that every once in a while one of the boys would pop out with some additional abilities intact sort of deal. And yeah, my mother, she was a seer and a prophetess and well known, and members of her family had worked with RCMP and in finding children and the like. And boy, I tell you, I don't know, spawn of Satan, Antichrist, pretty close to the same. Really, one and the same. And I spent years not speaking my truth because of the fear that indeed maybe I was. And then I realized, actually, indeed I am an Antichrist. I am an anti-establishment Christ. I am an anti-religion Christ. I am a man of the Christ who had compassion for the whore by the well, who never enabled anyone out of compassion to continue on the harmful path they were on, who spoke against government control, who spoke against religious control, who spoke against the rich being in control, and spoke for every single man, woman, and child, that they were all equal and worthy in the eyes of our Creator. How did we ever come to the idea that we could harm another one of God's children? Hello, Cindy. Nice to see you. You're late again. Okay, Cindy, I know other people have heard it, but I have to go back to this. You pointed out yesterday that the large hanging plant in the bedroom was a wandering Jew. And that same evening, I went upstairs with Kelly and I said, honey, I've decided to name our plant Jesus Christ. And she asked me why. And I had to say, honey, Cindy says it's a wandering Jew. I had tears rolling down my face. I really did. I thought it was the most hilarious thing ever. So just wanted to fill you in on that since you're here now. And okay, back to my preaching. Where was I in there, honey? I got lost there. Oh yes, we were talking about harming any one of God's children. It was not until Constantine in the 3rd century, well, actually the 4th century, that convinced the church at the time, in exchange for making it the accepted religion of all of Rome, okay, which was a huge boon for Christianity. In exchange for an edict, a papal edict that gave Christian soldiers or Christians the moral right to go out and fight evil in God's name. And for the first time ever, crosses appeared on shields. War on this planet could be ended by all our religions. Every single religion could stand up and say, you know what, we have re-examined and reinterpreted and seen where we've gone wrong, and it is not acceptable under any circumstances to kill or harm any of God's children. We are all God's children. All of these religions are holding back the inclusiveness of the entire species. Billions of people on this planet are absorbed in mainstream religion. Billions. Many of them part of the power and control structures across this planet. Many of them operating their own agendas. You know, if you listen closely to the rhetoric, you know, it's onward Christian soldiers. In the Muslim faith, it's warriors. This is a self-fulfilling prophecy that if we sit back and allow it, the major religions will do their best to fulfill it. Because according to all three of the Abrahamic faiths, we are in for a battle between good and evil. But that battle isn't between good and evil. That battle is going to be between belief systems on this planet. It's been happening for 2,000 years already. World War I, World War II, every single conflict in between there, before then and after then, right up until today, going into Syria and bombing supposed chemical weapons factories, doing it under righteous might. Where is the righteousness in bombing another country? You know, it was kind of funny when we went to the moon for the first time in 1969, there was a plaque left there that said that we came in peace for all mankind at the same time as millions of tons of explosives were being rained down all over Asia. The only reason we came in peace to the moon is there was nothing there to destroy. There's nothing there we wanted. Thank God we were just curious. We do need to wake up. And you know, this is Sunday, and the live Q&A is going to be about a lot of interesting subjects as well. So this is a little more sermon-esque right now. And you know, the reason for this is we are the ones who are awakening, the ones who are coming to understand that there must be more, that there is more. We are the ones who can, yeah, okay, Cindy, and this is the point. Anger and judgment. We carry all that anger and judgment because we have been trained into it. We have been trained into belief systems that say, well, that's the way God is. But He loves you. So we tend to do the same thing. Look, I love you to death, but I'm going to condemn you. And this is the mindset of Kelly's mother. And am I in her head? I tried to stay away from it. It's a little too confusing in her head. But the occasional glimpse that I've made the mistake of taking, it's always the same thing. I love you, but I can't have anything to do with you until you come back into the fold. You're doing this to you. I'm not. That's the mentality. You know, you've cast yourself out. I'm just doing what God wants me to. Christ, God, Christianity, nothing in that Bible ever spoke in the parts of it that matter, okay? I mean, if you want to live with that Old Testament God, the guy's a dick. He's a monster. He wants blood sacrifice. You touched his ark, he's going to kill you instantly. Oops, mistake. Oh, well. Doesn't like your city? Well, raze it to the ground, every man, woman, and children included. The list marches forward, on and on. Today, Carleton was talking about Genesis 6, and it's very true. You know, God looks down upon humanity and says, well, you're not even immortal. I'm not gonna be around here long. A little further in the Bible, in the Old Testament, man should be ground underfoot. Crushed into the ground again, worthless. These are the things that we were sold, and we were made to believe that we had to have His Son, one last blood sacrifice to make it all okay for the mistake that God made putting us together. Can you imagine the concept of a creator who knows all, allowing you to live 100 years knowing damn well you're going to go to hell? What's the point? Is that mercy? Is that a loving God? It sounds to me like torture. We, though, have to let go of our anger and our judgment. And when I say we, that includes all of us. I'm not exempt. You're not exempt. Kelly is not exempt. Because we now know a higher truth about our Creator, that our Creator is love and has no judgment. We are here to learn to become responsible creators ourselves, to learn to create consciously, to learn how to love unconditionally. And I'm not saying it's an easy road. Clearly, we as a species have a ways to go yet. And that's okay. Let's just make sure we're giving ourselves the opportunity. Jennifer says she cannot wrap her head around that concept. And Jennifer, because of the delay here, maybe could you just clarify and we can speak a little more about it? I'm not sure which concept. I've talked about a few. You know, I've always explained it to people like this. If you can imagine that God, the sea of consciousness, is indeed everywhere and is all things, then what are we made of? Where do we reside? Well, of course, we're made out of God material. That same consciousness. Where do we reside? We reside literally in the arms of our Creator. We reside in the sea of our Creator, that sea of consciousness. That's where we live. And absolutely, Jennifer, you're right. How could anyone wrap around their head around the concept about killing in the name of God? And yet, in churches and synagogues and mosques across the globe, soldiers come in to be blessed, to receive God's blessing before going to war, to do His holy work. I know. Used to happen to me too, as a soldier. Before every major conflict, we'd all file in to be blessed. We were God's warriors. This is a reality of war. This is a reality of what we choose to be. We in our awakened consciousness know better. We now see our Creator from a higher point of view, from a deeper, larger perspective. We see an infinite wave of love that surrounds us all. Our Creator would never, ever, ever, ever take away our free will. Religion has sought to take that free will from us and to package their will and then sell it to us in a one-flavor-fits-all variety pack. All paths lead home. Cindy says, I posted a piece asking everyone to not give in to fear and anger, to hold space for compassion and protection of our planet and all life. It's hard with this war for profit mentality. It is hard, you know, we've talked about this time and time again. It is becoming more and more increasingly difficult in a system that is ramping itself up. And again, we've talked about this many times. This is not a bad thing. It simply is what it is. And we, in our conscious awareness, cannot look at it and judge it. We have to remain objective. We have to see that what's happening is the two energies are rising together. There's a spiritual volcano, a higher consciousness Yosemite National Park. There's this huge lava dome of consciousness, of spiritual energy building on the planet. And within that, there are always the two sides of the dichotomy of this relative world. We have this side of ourselves growing stronger and stronger, more and more people falling more deeply asleep, more and more pain and suffering, more starvation, more of all the things that we look at and can choose to not produce anymore. And then we have this side that is rising. This is the loving, caring, compassionate, open, always connected to a higher being side of ourselves. And this side is also rising. People are waking up in droves. People are leaving churches in droves, no longer being able to accept a doctrine of fear. A doctrine of a God that somehow loves you but will doom you to hell for a single mistake for all eternity. As Carleton said, mercy and hell cancel each other out. You cannot have hell and have infinite mercy. If there's a hell, it's the hell we're putting ourselves through down here. And the reason we're putting it through, the reason we are doing it, the reason we are putting ourselves through it is because we're choosing to. It's that simple. There's nothing else. The creative sea of consciousness wants itself and us individuated as itself to express itself in every possible form, to learn and to grow, and it's literally like us coming here writ large. Like, can you see it? I wish you could just see it. It's going to make me burst into tears because the realization of the vision is so powerful. We come here as a conscious entity in the same way God came here. God gave birth to this whole universe as a conscious entity. Why? To get to know itself. To understand love. Because when there's only one, you cannot understand love. I apologize. I really do. I can get carried away. Shot of whiskey and a cigarette. To me, it is so wondrous. It is so beautiful that when I think about that, when I talk about it, when I let the power flow through me, I live in this wondrous state of seeing that all of creation is manifesting itself from the smallest to the largest. It's all the same. It's all the same truth. We can choose. Oh, sorry. I just gotta take a breath here for a minute. I get wound right up sometimes, and it's powerful when that wells up from within you because it's glorious. It's this glorious feeling of awe and wonder at what we truly are and what we can be, and we have to stop living so small on this planet. Religion would strive to keep us small. How do we change? Religion still has great value, okay? The mission, which is ran by the Baptist Church in in Vernon, feeds 200 people a day, 3 meals a day. They compassionately serve into the public. We need those people. We need to become part of those organizations again, but we cannot. We cannot become part of them when they will only accept one path and everyone else is doomed and call that a loving God. We cannot. But we cannot judge. As I said to Kelly, and this was a gut punch for her, and, it really was a gut punch. She was kind of whining and complaining about her mother and her family one night, and I said, you know what, honey? 5 years ago, you would have done exactly the same thing if another member of your family would have pulled what you did. You would have been the one putting them out. Boy, that hit her hard. I have a tendency to cut deep. And we were talking about this last night, and I said to her, look, the reality is in life, okay, none of us really pay attention until there's a cut. I mean, life keeps prodding at us, life keeps tapping us on the shoulder, taking the baseball bat to the back of the head every once in a while, and finally, as I found out many a times, finally, life pulls out that samurai sword and goes, fine, I'm going to slice you wide open. Not to harm us. To allow the suffering to make us want to seek more. To drive us forward. It's almost like a lash on the back. And the reason it works is the ego is a complacent thing. It loves everything being the same way all the time. Once it gets into a place where it thinks that everything is about as best as it's going to be, it never wants that to change. Recipe for disaster, because life is change. No change, no life. Even in death, it's change. This is where we need to take religion now. We need to reach out in love to the people we know who are in religious circles, and we must suggest to them that they re-examine their faith and ask them in their deepest hearts whether they believe a God of love would ever create a hell. And how could that hell exist? And there's people out there who are going to say, okay, well, I'm a Christian and I had a near-death experience and I went to hell. You did because you made that. Because in your subconscious mind, you felt that's where you needed to go. And in the instant you got there, in the instant you knew you didn't want to be there, in that thought moment, you were no longer in hell. My wife spent years watching NDE experiences and reading about them. And she was always confused by that. She would always say, well, why did people find themselves in hell? And then as soon as they immediately thought they didn't want to be there, they would be in a warm, loving place. And they would come back and think that was a warning to them. No, you carried your hell from here across the border with you. But in the moment you chose otherwise, because on the other side your thoughts are immediately manifest. Immediately. There's no delay. Here in the physical realm, there's a delay. It's called a safety switch. And we've talked about this before, the mistake and problem with that whole The Secret idea. Oh, manifest anything you want. Really? Think about it. There's a reason why it doesn't appear the moment we think about it. Are you kidding me? It's the universe's built-in safety gear. You can't manifest something here, right now, unless it's totally innocuous and does no harm to anybody. It has to be that way. We do not have to live under a fearful God. We do not have to have religion living under a fearful God. Why is it that we cannot accept every expression of a truth, every expression of a path as being just that, a beautiful expression of a path? Choose a path. What do we hold in our being? What we hold in our being and what we focus on, Cindy, and this is for everyone, okay? all of us, myself included, because I'm guilty of doing it as well. What we hold in our being is that conscious awareness that when you're dealing with someone who's very asleep or dealing with a situation where people are acting very asleep, that we have been there too. And if we remember, if we stop to look in that deep sleep of ours, there were people who came into our existence who weren't like other people. They exhibited a little more compassion. They exhibited a little more love and acceptance despite our behavior. And we have to continue to remember those things and try and offer that to everyone else as well. To be able to look upon those who are expressing themselves in egotistical and sleeping ways with compassion. And then how do we express ourselves? We express the opposite. We express what we know as our truth. Lovingly, kindly, firmly, with hands shaking if necessarily, but we express the truth. And then let go of the outcome. You see, we spent nearly 8 hours yesterday dealing with, those people who were evicted from the second unit in our strata here, because we're on the council and I'm the community tiger. Everyone always comes, Garhen will deal with it, sort of deal. So we spent about 8 hours yesterday dealing with this. They came back, they broke into the place. They had tried to burn the place down, I'm pretty sure. Had to have the police come there. It was this big mishmash. And all the time, the neighbor who lives in number 1, who's a beautiful girl, a single mother, has a great heart, works hard, raises beautiful children, does everything she can, is beside herself. She's so angry at the behavior of these people next door who have a couple of children. The place is a filthy mess. There was, as I said, cat feces, human feces, rotten food everywhere, cigarette butts all over the place, no safe place to sit, no safe place to stand. And she was mortified and angry. And we don't own the outcomes. We never did. Oh, Cindy, you're so welcome. Stand in your truth, let go of the outcome. You see, we always think we own the outcomes, and we don't. There isn't anything that we own. You can take all the precautions in the world when you're building your magnificent new home. You can double insulate it. You can make it earthquake proof. You could do all you want. And if the Chinese space station didn't burn up and happened to come down on your house, what happens to your house? Poof, gone, just like that. The outcome, the result is never ours. The outcomes are always in the sea of consciousness hands. We are responsible in what we put out. We are not responsible for the results of that. The universe decides that. Kelly and I have worked and worked and worked on this strata property, trying to bring up the look of it, trying to bring up the maintenance levels and keep it functioning properly. And I'm always telling her, honey, let go. Do what you believe in. But don't assume, don't decide for yourself what the outcome is going to be, because the strata is a form of democracy. We don't have the right to inflict our will on other people. And we shouldn't get frustrated. Here's the way I look at it, and maybe this will help, because I totally understand where you're coming from. Especially as the feminine, as women, your natural, loving, compassionate womb of creative being, of course, sees children being harmed, children dying. Doesn't matter whether they're adults or not. They're someone's child. They're another being, another life. You know, and I understand this. I know where you're coming from. And acceptance, again, acceptance, surrender, surrender, surrender. We surrender our actions to the world, to God, to the creative sea of consciousness. Om Tat Sat. Literally, all is God working for God through God. We're a false concept of ourselves, but luckily we're a very valuable false concept of self that has very much meaning, very much ability, and a huge, glorious future as part of that sea of consciousness. Let go, let God. Do what you do from that highest place in your being. Speak from your highest place of truth. Speak compassionately. Help without enabling, and let go of the results. Because a lot of the world's asleep. And despite the fact we may see it today, the suffering may have to continue for years before enough people will become consciously aware. That's why, to me, the goal is always raising conscious awareness. Not getting caught up in what we see. Remember, these are the artifacts. These are the artifacts of 2,000 years of wrongful thinking. And we have created so much out of that still. So much possibility exists today. Everything we need to revolutionize the way we live, revolutionize our way of life, end starvation and suffering, and the idea of struggling to survive on this planet once and for all, we have it here now, right now, in this moment. That's my sermon for Sunday morning. We are these magnificent, powerful spiritual beings, and when I lay in the arms of my Creator and gaze down upon this tiny, shining little globe and watch all the beings skittering to and fro upon it, I can't help but think, what a wondrous soap opera planet Earth makes galaxy-wide. I love you all. I truly do. I can say that with complete 100% honesty. You are part of me as I am part of you. We are part of this whole. We are brother, we are sister, and we are one, ultimately. Again, I apologize for the little bit of extra emotion today. As I said, you know, and again, they're not feelings. They're not negative. They're totally positive. They're welling up and popping out a lot lately. It's been a weird week. Namaste to you all. And we hope to see you on the Awaken the World channel at 1 o'clock. We have a lot of great subjects. It's going to be a lot of fun, and we'll stay away from the sermon. Again, much love from Kelly and myself. Take care.